Alright, the last basic submission off our back that you need to know to get your purple belt in Steve Jitsu is our guillotine. Okay? Guillotine, the setup is the same as your sit-up sweep before. I'm getting my hips out, I'm getting on my side, and I'm getting onto my fingers. Okay? From here, what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be looking to wrap my arm around my partner's neck. So my goal really with this position is I want to be nice and deep. My elbow wants to be deep and my knuckles wants to be past his throat. So in this situation here, yeah, my wrist is basically sat nicely under his jaw here. It's just pointing out the other side. That's where you really want to be. Okay? If you look at your arm and your hand, there's sort of like a nice spot for his chin under there. So, what we're going to do now is I'm not going to be lying flat on my back. Okay? A lot of people, when they start trying to hit this guillotine arm in or arm out, is they'll just go flat, step back, and they'll start trying to crank their partner's neck off his head. Okay? Now, correct, I am using my hips and core to apply the pressure, but if I'm lying flat on my back, how much runway do I have to apply and arch my back? Well, I don't. So if we come back to our reverse hip escape movement here, if I roll on my side now, I'm able to generate lots of movement now with my shoulders and my hips. So when I'm setting this guillotine up here, I'm going to be making sure firstly everything's tight, so nothing's popping out. Again, being tight, I bring my shoulder forward. But when I sit, I'm going to be sitting at an angle on my partner here. So now to finish, I bring my nose to my partner's shoulder and I push my hips through very gently. Okay? Again, think back to what you want to happen with this to hurt your partner. Well, this needs to be going directly through my partner's neck. I don't want it to be dragged up. Okay? I want it directly through. So I crunch up, and then when I bring my hips through, which moves my shoulders back, I'm moving my forearm directly through his throat. So, I'm getting up, I'm getting on my fingers, and instead of hitting my Kimura or my sweep, I'm now wrapping around his head. I then have to really think about adjusting my hips back across the center line, because when I fall, I want to fall towards my shoulder or his head. So on this side here, we can see it better, my hips are facing the wrong way. So when I hit this guillotine here, I need to turn my hips back towards my partner. I don't want to be flat on my back. I definitely don't want to be facing away from him with my hips. This is deep. My thumb's in the correct position. It's nice and deep. It's past his throat. Okay? Just to clarify my thumb, it's right here. The start of my hand is just sticking out past his neck. Now, to keep this covered, I bring my shoulder forward. Shoulder covers his head. So now you can't see his head. If I sit back like this, 9 times out of 10, his head will pop out. So, from this position now, I get my cup and saucer grip. Okay? Many grips will work for this guillotine. What you're looking for is just something to close this circle up. Again, your grip isn't doing the work. Your grip is really bad at hurting people actually doing things. It's what the grip allows for your shoulder and body to do that's really important. So, a lot of grips will work for this cup and saucer. Everything's covered. I then sit back at an angle. I crunch my nose up, and I push my hips through for my finish. Now this is where we can really get interesting in terms of hip positioning for this guillotine finish. What you will find is the closer your hips are to your partner's hips, the less potent your guillotine will be. Do you want me to do this down so you know? Come here, Dan. Getting someone new. So you got choked too much. Yeah, just on these ones. And then shuffle back a little bit. So what you're going to find is the closer my hips are to my partner's hips, the less potent this guillotine is going to be. So from here, if I keep my hips in tight and cut an angle, we do it, it's very difficult. Now, if I start working on getting my hips back, so from here, I make sure my hips are further back, I might have to frame on it, and then I sit with an angle, it becomes much easier to finish this guillotine. So this should start making you think about hip positioning on your partner. Again, when we start passing guard, I move my hips away from my partner because we acknowledge that if my hips are away from my partner, he can do less to me. Well, in this guillotine position now, if we talk about defending these submissions, the primary defense to a guillotine that you first learn is you stack your partner. For a triangle, yeah, you bring your hips over your partner's hips, whatever. What happens when you stack your partner is you bring your hips over your partner's hips. If you bring your hips over your partner's hips, you're applying more and more leverage or weight to him. If you're applying more leverage and weight to him, thinking back to one of the first videos, he can do less. So we reverse engineer that for submissions. For this guillotine here, if I move my hips away from my partner's hips, I become much more potent with how I apply leverage to my partner's neck, meaning that I get the submission easy. That's a guillotine.